Welcome to Growing Older with Enthusiasm, our Winning in Overtime series. And this is Dr. Ron here, hoping that you are gaining a lot from the series already. Got a lot more important stuff to go on today. So let me not hesitate any longer, turn it over to my co-host, Neil Haley, and let's start with the questions.
All right. Yeah. So we were talking about owning your body before, and then we went into working out, which was a very intriguing the amount of time and how important it is in weight training and exercise. And really, now the one area is if you do all those things, but yet you forget about one thing, which is stress management, it doesn't matter if you work out all the time. It doesn't matter if you sleep 8 hours a day. It doesn't matter if you eat healthy. This can be the killer is if you have to really learn to decrease your stress. How do you do that in overtime? That's going to be hard.
Well, it's not really that hard. The hard part is breaking habits, just like so many other things. And the start of it begins with recognizing that it is important that, we sometimes think about things like relaxation techniques, meditation, so on as being nothing because we're being relatively inactive during that time. The important thing is to recognize that we're not being inactive. We're doing things to help us win in overtime by owning our body. You don't own your body by running it down all the time. And, just like if somebody works all the time, if somebody uses all their spare time for working out or for rushing around and doing whatever they do, whether it be caretaking or whatever it may be, you still need to interrupt that process because you can burn out even if you're retired.
Absolutely. So let's go into some ways we can do that.
Okay, the first thing that I think is critically important is to not get ahead of ourselves, but to build in some time to interrupt the stress cycle. In other words, I wouldn't worry too much about formal meditation or so on as the first step. First thing I would want to do is pick out a time during the day when you can consistently sit down and just relax, whatever that means to you. It doesn't mean going as if your engine is real charged. Now, for some people, they find that starting the day with meditating is a good idea. I've always found it's somewhat helpful to do it before dinner or before preparing dinner. Um, I tend to ease into my day, which I think is another technique to be aware of. I'm not when these guys jumps out of bed, grabs something, um, and gets out to the car, goes to work or whatever it may be. I like to ease into it. You know, I don't take 15 or 20 minutes in the shower. I also don't take 2 minutes. I eat a normal breakfast and so on. So I always feel that for me, the morning I'm probably feeling pretty good already. So I like to do it later in the day. But whenever it is, first thing, set aside a time and just do whatever relaxes you at that time that doesn't involve physical activity. Whether it's just sitting there listening to music, whether it's shutting your eyes, not worrying too much about what's going on. Um, don't read an exciting book or so on. Get used to the idea that doing nothing is more than doing nothing.
Absolutely. Just because, I mean, does it relax you? When you meditate, when you slow things down, does that relax you, Dr. Ron, to be able to do the next thing?
Yeah, at some point, I hope that you'll introduce some formal type of meditation or relaxation training. And there's lots of things you can learn about it online, more specifically, things like guided imagery, transcendental meditation. Mindfulness meditation is kind of I hate to say the hottest new thing because it's been around for a while now, but mindfulness is being able to just pay attention to your surroundings. And when you introduce a meditation thing to it, then you're concentrating on your breath. You're not doing anything extraordinary. You're not trying to slow down or quicken your breathing, you're trying to get in touch with your normal breathing. Obviously, it's better to have it slowed at some point than to breathe too rapid, too shallow. The thing that I like people to be aware of is where is the breath coming from? Because if it's coming from the chest area, then I mean, that's stress-inducing breathing. That's the kind of thing that you do when you're under stress. So it's important to get the breathing down lower in your body. Abdominal breathing is great, but again, I don't want this to be work for you. Don't, just make sure you're not breathing too rapidly and or too shallowly, but just concentrate on the breathing. And if you get interrupted, if you wind up going to some thought that isn't on your breathing, that's not terrible. Just observe it. You can even congratulate yourself for observing it, but then come right back to the breathing. The other component of that I think is important is I know when some of us were taught meditation, we were taught that it should be for half hour or 45 minutes or 20 minutes twice a day or stuff like that. That can be a stress inducer in and of itself. So I think that it's important to figure that, 5 minutes of real relaxation is better than uh, 20 minutes of paying attention to the clock and so on and not really getting into the relaxation meditation part of it. Don't make a big deal out of it. That's the new thoughts among meditators. And there is good science to recognize that your brain actually changes over time. Longtime meditators have healthier brains than people who don't. So again, this is not nothing. It may appear to be nothing, but it's very important physiologically and it's very important psychologically to interrupt the stress cycle. Um, as you know, Neil, I've got a background in working with headache patients, and one of the things that I always encouraged headache patients to do is if they have a predictable time when headaches may occur, um, try and use this as a preventive medicine. In other words, some people by late morning they start to get a headache until they can eat. I always encourage them to see if they can find a time where they can spend a few minutes meditating, relaxing before this starts. Uh, like anything else, it's going to take some practice, uh, but it's a lot easier to prevent something than to try and meditate your way out of a headache once the headache has become full blown.
Absolutely. Such great points you're making, Dr. Ron, and when it talks about the brain. When do you know you're under stress? This is the other thing. People don't identify they're in stress sometimes because some people live in fight and flight all the time, or some people love to live with a deadline or something that has to get done, but they don't know what they're doing to their body because of this.
Yeah, I think there are two categories of people that we have to be concerned about. One are the ones that you mentioned who don't uh, don't know that they're under stress, but there's also a whole category of people who say, "Well, I I thrive on stress. Stress is good for me and all that." Uh, there aren't many things I tell people to listen to me on faith, but the science is behind what I'm saying. Stress wears the body down. And the unfortunate thing is, if you get into this kind of cycle of not knowing that you're under stress or thinking that it's good for you, um, the decline in your efficiency may not be progressive. You can wind up having your body break down in some way um, fairly quickly. And again, I'm a big a proponent of prevention. It's always better to avoid a crisis than to try and learn how to do it when you're in a crisis. So, in answer to your question, look at your schedule. If you haven't gotten time built in for relaxation, and if you haven't uh, done other things to own your body, being able to take a walk on a regular basis, to be able to add working out to your schedule. Uh, how much fun are you having? So on. So I try not to focus that much on the stress as to what are you doing in the rest of your life to own your body. And if you're doing the right things, there's a pretty good chance you can be interfering with the stress.
Love it. It's definitely some great information. Any other tips you have for our audience today?
No, I think that the biggest thing that I can say is it's it's incompatible to talk about working at relaxing. So I think the mindset that, hey, relaxation is fun, it's good for me. Now let me find some time uh, to sit down and relax, and then subsequently to find what is the method that I'm going to use for relaxing. And there's nothing that isn't helpful in this regard. For some people, you never get uh, anything more sophisticated than sitting down and concentrating on the breathing, or sitting down and listening to music that isn't too exciting. Don't overthink about it. If you get good at it, it's kind of uh, like with aerobic exercise or cardio exercise. Start out walking. If you find that you want to get into jogging or running or something like that, it will work its way into your schedule once you feel that you need more of the challenge. So again, the mindset is the important thing. Once you get started, you'd be surprised how good you feel.
All right. That was a great growing older with enthusiasm with Dr. Ron Kaiser, going through the whole winning with overtime series. Take care, Dr. Ron.
Take care. See ya.